We had already bombed and was on our way home, and we had used up all of our ammunition. We didn't have not one round left, and we were kind of curious because the tail gunner says, I said, I spotted the plane behind us, but we couldn't identify it quite. And as it got in closer, sure enough, it was a Ju-88 German fighter, that is a medium bomber, fired a rocket at us. And the tail gunner, he got all excited and called the pilot. And so then I got involved in the thing, and I said, well, when that rocket gets closer to us, it's a few seconds in between all this, that to have the pilot vary one way or the other. So he dropped down a little bit, and it went right over us, went on, and then finally lost the power and went down. And we thought, it was done. But he kept right behind us and fired a second rocket at us. And of course, the tail gunner was all excited because, this is what he was going to catch it. And so I told the pilot, I said, now, when the time comes, the tail gunner, he burst in, he says, you better climb a little because I think he's going to hit us. And we climbed, and when we climbed, it went under us, like that. It went on and then dispersed. Lo and behold, he decided he was going to come in closer. And when he came in closer, he fired the third rocket at us. And that third rocket really came very close because we didn't just have a few seconds to maneuver that thing out. Well, and after that, he come in real close and found out that we could not fire at him. And he really got close then because he had no ammunition either. He had used up his ammunition too. So you know what he did? He flew formation with us. He came in real still, and I could actually see the pilot. They were waving and laughing and everything. This is our enemy, by the way. He flew with us for a little bit, and then he finally realized that we were coming to the Adriatic coastline, and we were going to go across there to get to Italy. And he peeled off, and as he peeled off, I had a little counting camera with me in my pocket. I had my K-20, but I couldn't get it down and get it up there in time, so I took a picture of it. And that Ju-88 has a picture as it dove off. I got a picture of it. It's I think it's got my book in it. Yeah, I think it is. It's in my book.
I think this might be a good place for them to know about your testimony, John, and what some of the things were that you said to the Lord before you went into the service, and why they always rubbed your head.
Well, after about the second or third flight, the boys wanted to kind of play a little bit, and I said, well, we were back at the base at this time. So they wanted to, do it. And I said, well, I've got something I have to do. I said, I have to do this. I said, I can't go with you today. So I go out on the hillside, and it is a black day, but the stars were so bright. And I looked up to the Lord, and I said, I says, what we just went through, if we're going to have this happening to us every time we go out, he says, I need your protection. I want you to help us get through this whole setup. From that day to this, the Lord has been so close to me. He has really helped and done everything. The boys, just before we get ready to take off, they would all come by me. And as this was something, rub my head. They knew I was a Christian, and they knew that the Lord is going to protect us. And he did. not a one of us got an entry. The closest one was mine with that piece of flak that went through between my legs. Another one was that the navigator was so jumpy and he couldn't hardly stand the flak suits and what have you that we had on. But the helmet was the worst for him. He's always used to having a cap on. But during when we were in the air, going over the target, the flak and so forth, we always had a helmet on, steel helmet. He took that helmet off as the flak hit, and just as he set it down in front of him, a piece of flak, pretty good sized piece, hit that helmet. Had he not done that a second before that, that would have gone right through his midsection. And that's just one example of how the Lord takes care of us. Even to that very day, I still marvel at how the Lord asked, had him take the hat off, the helmet off, just that split second.
Tell us about the women that were praying for you guys, John.
Oh, like I told you, I was in the Nazarene Church in Santa Monica, and my mother also went to Venice every once in a while to special meetings or what have you. And I had 50, I think it was 57, wasn't it? I think it was 57 women. It was 52 or 57, can't remember which now. Prayed for us by name every day that we were over there. Prayed for us every day. Those 57 women. Showing the power of prayer, by the way. It was just phenomenal, really.
John, when you talk about flak, I'm not sure that a lot of these younger people, and I'm not sure from this older person here, would know exactly what that is. Could you tell us what flak is, how it gets into the air, and how it affected you one day?
Flak is metal. It's actually an aerial bomb. Pretty good size around. It's about 4 or 5 inches in diameter. And the reason why the size of it, there's an explosive item involved and a time elevation. When it gets to a certain elevation, it would explode. And that's why we varied on our up and down flights to verify, so that when the ground crew tried to zero in on our altitude, why we would change and they would shoot, and it would either be above us, below us, or around us. And this flak would fly up in all directions. Yeah, it would just really, all directions. That's why they were so effective with the flak. That's why we tried to hit them and knock them out. Now, a piece of flak is pieces. I'm trying to get it out of here. There, I got it. When the one came through between my legs and lodged in the Bombay plywood door between the pilot and the Bombay, I heard it. I don't think I told you this, but anyway, when I heard it, I got back and I dug it out of the plywood door, and there's what they look like. These are the fly that would fly in all directions, and after the explosion. And you'd have to get a closer look at this, but I dug that out, brought it home, and I still have it today. Some of our planes, we come back. One of them we came back had 126 holes in it. Another time we came back, and there was a hole behind the co-pilot's seat that was at least large enough for him to stick his head out. I didn't get a picture of that, but some of the other fellows did, of him sticking his head out And that goes to show you that there's all different sizes of holes that was created when new, and of course the bullets and everything. I did have another flight that they were zeroing in, coming up and down from the top, and they put so many holes in our fuel tanks that we were bleeding out fuel considerably, and it was just God's miracle that we even made it back. We had very little gallons of fuel when we finally got back to the plant, back to the base.
How would you not? How did the plane not blow up, John, when it's hitting the tank that much?
Well, see, that's the thing. It's a miracle, really. Basically, just like I told you before about the ones when we went in the car as we took off. That situation was it was set to where the fuel would run off and get sucked into the turbos, and of course the turbos would change it to gas and it made it explode. And so we did have to watch that very close. Well, yeah, we were going and the right ways again. We were in close, and we were getting ready to spread out a little bit because of the flight. And one of the planes came in, and with a 20 millimeter cannon on his nose, it was a Messerschmitt 109, hit him, and the cockpit exploded. And when he did that, the pilot pulled back like that, and the plane left, and I saw it go over the top of me. And when it went over the top of me, I could see them all in there, and I yelled real quick to the pilot to tell the left wing to move out, or West must move out. So we moved away from him and he went down. And when he went down, he started to spin. And that's when I called the ball turret gunner, and I says, "Did any of them get out?" He says, "Well, I didn't see a one. They just were all bound up in that plane that went on down, hit the ground."
John, a lot of us too would maybe know what D-Day is. What does that stand for, and what was that day about, and what was it like for you?
I didn't know anything about D-Day until it really occurred. When we were in Volgograd in Russia is when we got the word that was the day, and they called it D-Day. It was just one of those, nomenclature that they used. It was the day that Normandy was invaded in southern France, and the troops came on in there and started up through France. There was another crew. Oh man, here I'm telling you all these stories. They were on island of Corsica. They had been recruited from Africa, and they were all over 6 foot. They were black. They were all over 6 foot tall, well trained on Corsica. And it was a week or so after D-Day, they made a southern invasion of France and were ordered to anything that moved and had a uniform or indicated that they were, the enemy, was with German, namely, to shoot them. And they butchered, well, I shouldn't use that word, I guess, but they destroyed just hundreds of the ones that were on the ground. The officers that trained them and went with them were so afraid that they would take over and really get involved in this that they had on their helmets who they were and on their uniform to identify them, and they were told, the soldiers were told to to anybody who had that insignia, you know, leave them alone. Because they were in uniform too. And that probably you do not realize that did take place after Normandy and after D-Day.
And can you tell us a little bit about it towards the end when Japan got involved, something about that, John?
Okay, now in the meantime, my younger brother was in what they call a V-12 program, learned how to fly, and about 2 weeks before he graduated, they sent him down to the South Pacific. He knew how to fly, so his commanding officer said, well, would you like to have a fighter? He says, oh yeah. He says, I've got to do something with this war, you know. I know how to fly. So they gave him a plane, believe it or not, well-armed little plane, and he probably told me what it was, but I can't remember what it was. He went out day in and day out, and by the time he got through with his cruise, he had shot down 5 kamikazes. That was he stayed near the ships and what have you, because they knew that they would come in near the ships that were in the area, and he would just wait till it come in out of the sky and shoot them down. So anyway, that's generally what he did. The war in Japan, you know, was started. I don't know how many of you young people know about Pearl Harbor. Now, Pearl Harbor was an invasion by Japan, and they bombed and destroyed a lot of our B-17s who were flying in there to land, you know, that were ordered to be there, to stay there. But Japan really destroyed Pearl Harbor and a lot of the planes. Yes, dear.
My aunt was stationed at Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, that's right. She was telling me stationed at Pearl Harbor. Yeah.
She saw the whole
Saw the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, a lot of times we just bomb the cities that had an airport or something, or manufacturing plant near it. A lot of places, why they were secret type setups. So this particular day that she's mentioning is that we had 2,000 pounders. Now that's 2,000 pounds. That's 4,000 aboard. And we took off. We went north and west of our base. And as I say, we had no idea what we were bombing. We just told it was a cave. There were 57 high-ranking German and Italian officers in this cave, and we bombed that thing. And so the commanding officer was not satisfied, so we came back to the base, reloaded, and went back with 500 pounders and re-bombed that whole thing. And I didn't even find out about it until after the Stars and Stripes. That's a magazine or a paper that we used to get when we were overseas. And this story about that was there, and we were involved in that. We did it. We did that. We destroyed those boys. The story goes that they tried bucklers, they tried buttons, they tried their own fingers and everything to dig out. These are limestone mines. That is, they had emptied them out, really, basically, the best that they could. And can you imagine having to try to get out one that was made up of that type of material? It was kind of a light material that they were taken out of there.